So how did we get into home theater sound? Um, this may be a multi-part series where we talk about a variety of sound, home theater surround sound systems and stuff. But then again, we might kind of tackle it in one. I don't know yet. So there are a couple, maybe three reasons why I got into home theater surround sound. And it's not because, early, exposure to it, because we went to the drive-in movies all the time where you had a mono speaker that wasn't very loud, or you could put it on like an FM or AM station or whatever, and the drive-in would broadcast it through a little low watt transmitter. It actually started with like auction lots, buying auction lots like storage auctions and Goodwill auctions and stuff like that. So I didn't start, with the home theater sound when, we had like the 3-speaker sound, I guess they call it like Dolby stereo surround or something like that. So you would have an analog signal, in VHS, maybe select division CDs, and laser discs, and they would program, these two analog signals to be compatible with, stereo, and have a way to steer the surround, in like a Dolby Pro Logic decoder or whatever. But we did not get the really even, if we had stereo sound, it was in a TV and not hooked to a stereo system. So we'll say very lo-fi-ish, mono stereo exposure. No early, like I said, 3-speaker sound. But we got things in auctions sometimes. We got center channel speakers or surround speakers, or some kind of bookshelf type speakers, and maybe occasionally subwoofers. And we eventually got like a Dolby Pro Logic, like 5-channel receivers. We had 2 or 3 of them we got in a short period of time, and I just saved like our center channel speakers. I think we got like 2 in separate auctions, and that's kind of how it started, just putting those together with some bookshelf speakers that we got from auctions, and eventually bought our first store-bought subwoofer, which was a Sony, and it was horrible. It had like all kinds of distortions. It had electrical problems, very muffled sound. And when I told people, especially like salesmen, about how bad the Sony subwoofer was, they're like, "Really? Huh? I thought Sony was pretty good." Of course, they're salesmen, and maybe I just got a bad one. But once I upgraded, I ended up getting like the Clips 12-inch speakers, and I bought my first Clips at Circuit City before they went out of business, and it was really expensive. But to me, as a first subwoofer, this would have been such a better experience than the Sony would have been. But it blew the Sony away. And with that being said, really like high-end home theater, enthusiasts and all, they even think that this is a low-end, speaker, and it probably is compared to like a, $500,000 or $1 million home theater system. So I said at the beginning of this video that there was like a couple of reasons why, I kind of wanted to shift toward home theater sound. And laser discs were, like so much known to be so much better as far as like sound quality, and they had DTS DTS digital sound, and a lot of them, you know, the first ones had analog sound, just like VHS, probably maybe slightly better than VHS quality. But they had the ability to do digital stereo surround, you know, and do your Pro Logic decoding that way. Then DTS, and then Dolby Digital. And the last of the Laserdisc, a couple of them had like the what do you call it, the 6.1 surround. So this guy here, Star Wars Phantom Menace, the Japanese release, actually has 6.1 surround sound in it. I think it was released around 2000. Can't remember for sure. The thing about laser discs, as far as Dolby Digital versus the DTS digital, was that they used two different outputs, and on the Dolby output you had, I guess, what they call a dirty or a raw audio output, and you had to have an extra decoder, and some receivers had it, but sometimes you had to buy a little box or something that would allow you to translate that into, I guess, a universal Dolby Digital output. So you had analog, and sometimes some of the older laser discs would use the analog audio for commentaries and stuff. So it was kind of a, and you had to have a laserdisc player if you wanted Dolby Digital that would have a Dolby Digital output. Not all of them had them, and not all of them had the digital for DTS and digital stereo output either. Some of them just had analog. And one of the first laserdisc players I got was the clamshell opening laserdisc you would probably find in churches and universities like early on. And that's what kind of got me into collecting laserdiscs. Time went on, I would get some more cooler bipole speakers and stuff like that for the system, and I bought the Athenas, I think used on eBay, these bipolars. They got reflectors, I guess, that kind of bounces the sound, you know, to the sides. So as I went toward Dolby Digital, you know, output, I ended up getting, now this isn't the first one I bought, I ended up getting a Yamaha natural surround receiver. It had the extra presence outputs where you have like 2 or 4 kind of present speakers, which, you know, were kind of like send out like I don't know, atmospheric-ish, like reverb-ish sounds through the front, or the front and the back, depending on how many outputs it had. It wasn't very good. It was kind of gimmicky in my opinion, but it did have Pro Logic 2X, and it had, you know, the DTS-ES 6.1 and stuff support. So it was a pretty good first buy, I guess, as far as a retail buy. You know, upgrading from the storage unit, you know, storage auction receivers after like Dolby ATMOS came out and stuff. I wanted like an ATMOS receiver that was probably better than this one, but I bought this one anyway because it was the only thing I could afford. I call it an ATMOS Lite. So 7.2 channels, which is really a 7.1. So you can have your 7.1 audio, or you can have like your 5.1.2 or whatever audio, where you have like 5 surround speakers, you have your 2 Atmos speakers, your height speakers, and then 1 bass channel. So we're kind of moving past the HD DVD, like the DTS Master and all that good stuff, and the HD DVD had, and the early Blu-ray, audio formats, the HD formats. And then we're moving on to like, DTS-X, and Dolby ATMOS. And I was already into like 3D and stuff, but they started introducing those formats into some of the 3D releases. Like the Transformers Last Night, and I think Age of Extinction. Then I think one of the first ones, I don't know if it's the actual first one, was Jupiter Ascending, but it had some kind of audio like that. And Abominable, this is a later release that has it. I think the Crude's The New Age has Atmos. The Grinch is another one that had a Atmos track. And I showed this off in a previous video about 3D Mad Max Fury Road. This has one of the most aggressive Atmos mixes of them all. Of course, Atmos Lite wasn't something that I was super happy with. You gave up your 2 channels out of the 7.1 system and traded it for 2 height channels. So I ended up finding a really good price for a Pioneer Elite VSX LX503, which is a 9.2, 9.1 receiver, and it has processing for 2 more channels. All you have to do is add your another amplifier, and it's got Wi-Fi antennas and stuff, plus wired Ethernet if you like or prefer, and it has phono preamp for a record player. I ended up experimenting with tactile transducers, aka bass shakers, and they were a critical component in my previous home theater room. But when Natalie had to move to a different place, there really wasn't a good space to put everything, and I'll show you some more pictures in a second. We started building a home theater, I guess, platform, so it had like the lift up, the height, so it can be put behind a couch or whatever, and you can still see well. And we use real theater, from like, you go to the walk-in theater, the seats that they use, they have cup holders and stuff in them, and the swing up seats. And this is kind of the bottom view of it. We put 6 tactile transducers, and I think it's a 250 watt amplifier there. And we use like a thinner board to connect between the legs or whatever, the support area, because we needed to create more vibration, because putting like it on a 2x4, it kind of dampens the vibrations of the tactile transducers. So you need areas of slight flex to get them going. And you can see the amplifier right here, mounted before we mounted the actual chairs or put the carpeting on. And this probably plugged in just to test the chairs, just kind of, again, testing it before we put carpet over it. And we ended up buying another clip sub, so we had 2 of these 12-inch, whatever wattage they are, 500 watt or whatever subs. We had the tactile transducers, 6 of them on that theater seating area. Then we had a chair, I think, with 1 or 2, and the couch with like 2. And so that was our original kind of LFE, low frequency effect setup. And in that original home theater room, we also had an outdoor set of speakers, and we had a speaker selector for the front speaker, so we could do and this is an impedance matching setup, so you can have one speaker or up to 6, I guess, on it once. And but anyway, all this stuff pretty much had to come off when Natalie moved in. You know, it wasn't going to fly with her to have all these, you know, subwoofers and everything just connected at all the time. We went to just having one clip subwoofer set up. Had this really old Yamaha natural surround stereo power amplifier, an M70, to originally work as the extra processing speakers for the surround ATMOS system for the height speakers. It just had a funky smell, you know, once it warmed up. They got a term for it, you know. It just was unpleasant. So I ended up buying a rack system to organize things a little better. Power strip, I have an ATS-MA modulator. And that was going to hold the receiver, extra amplifiers, you know, DVD players and everything, and it does not hold everything, but it holds a lot. For that, we actually got a really nice wood, it's like a $500 or $600 AV cabinet that just sat on the floor, and we upgraded to 2 external amplifiers, and we had to get a power strip that actually sensed power turning on the receiver to automatically turn these amplifiers on. I do not think they make these anymore. It's the Monster, I guess, HP Digital Power Center 650G. These guys are incredible. So it was originally made to hook a computer on. So you turn your computer on in this one outlet, and it turns on all of your other outlets when it senses the power. So guess what we hook to this one? We hook it to the home theater receiver. It turns on, and it turns the amplifiers on and other stuff on that you might want or need, and it is a lifesaver. I did not go out looking to buy like a rack mount amplifier, like a professional amplifier, to do the extra 2 channels of amplification, but I tried to find a cheap one, like a cheap, just you know, 30, 50 watt, whatever, new Chinese made one or whatever, and everything was more expensive than buying a used, like, professional grade amplifier. And these crowns, I wouldn't say that they're like professional, but they're used in somewhat in like PA systems. They're used in probably like guitar amplifiers and stuff like that. And some people use them, you know, in this situation, and they've done really well. This is the XLS202, and I got a Crown CTS 600, which is also a rack mount system amplifier. And did I need that? I just I wanted the best output. I didn't want to strain the internal amplifier on this surround receiver and amplifier. So we got 2 for processing the extra height channels, and 2 for the I believe the left and the right speakers, which are probably the ones that get worked the most, other than like subwoofers. But the receivers, they can handle some LFE, I guess, amplification, but your subwoofers can do the majority of that work. And I love the music and stuff of like the first Resident Evil, and this was on an old DLP screen. I love just blasting that. I think Trent Reznor did like a lot of the soundtrack or something on that one, and I really like that one. And so yeah, Resident Evil is one of my favorite series, but I don't think I have a picture or the disc with me right now. But Resident Evil Afterlife, I've seen it in the theater. It has a couple of really good scenes where the X-Men or whatever scene, just put the volume to the max there. And then when she's like running over the building and jumping off of the building or whatever, that's just some amazing soundtrack stuff there. And I would say even like Final Destination 2, the whole car, crash scene, turn the volume up, listen to it. It is pretty killer. And I do have a sound level meter to try to get a little bit more accurate reading, to set up the home theater receivers. And even though there's a little microphone and that is included with most of these, and it'll auto set up, it usually doesn't get it right.